Besides the political concerns over the embassy move, a pair of controversial Christian pastors are facing criticism tonight over their involvement. Pastor Robert Jeffress delivered the opening prayer.
We thank you every day that you have given us a president who boldly stands on the right side of history, but more importantly, stands on the right side of you, oh God, when it comes to Israel.
Pastor Jeffress joins us now live from Jerusalem. He's a Fox News contributor and senior pastor at the First Baptist Church of Dallas. Pastor, thanks for your time today.
Thanks, Shannon.
I know you had a short night there. It's morning there in Jerusalem. Let me ask you, because there's been so much reporting all day, talking about the violence, talking about the dozens who have been killed. That is tragic. But I want to ask you about the other side of this there in the streets of Jerusalem. What did you see just talking to average folks today about how they were feeling?
There is an absolute air of excitement here in Jerusalem over what happened earlier today. Shannon, I can't walk down the streets of Jerusalem without people stopping me and saying, Pastor, thank you for what evangelical Christians are doing. Thank you for what America is doing. Thank you for what President Trump has done in standing with Israel. There is real excitement in this city that is not being drowned out by the violence in Gaza.
You were a big part of the ceremonies today, and there were folks who were not happy about that. Mitt Romney among them, tweeting out that you should not have had that place representing the United States there based on previous comments that you've made about Mormons, about Jews, about other religions. The ADL tweeting this today. Today is a day of celebration as the U.S. Embassy opens in Jerusalem. The choice of Pastor Robert Jeffress to offer a prayer sends exactly the wrong message. Jeffress has a history of bigoted comments about LGBTQ people, Jews, Muslims, Christians, and other religions. Your response?
Well, first of all, I've never said anything derogatory about the Jewish people. I talked about today the oneness that we share in worshiping the same God in the Scriptures. But Shannon, I want to be clear. I'm not a bigot. I'm not an extremist. But I do, without apology, embrace the most foundational belief of historic Christianity. And that is that faith alone in Jesus Christ is the exclusive way to heaven. Jesus said, I am the way, the truth, and the life. No man comes to the Father but by me. Now, people can disagree with Jesus' words. Millions of them do. But the fact that I and hundreds of millions of evangelical Christians around the world believe what Jesus said about the way to heaven does not make us a bigot. This is not a surprising statement. The fact is, this has been the teaching of the church for 2,000 years.
Do you understand why some folks are offended, and are you surprised at all by the reaction and the critics that you had today?
Well, I think people many times take my statements out of context, and I think that's happened many times. I think it's sad, really, that on such a historic day like today, Mitt Romney would feel the need to steal the spotlight by launching a vicious and unfounded attack against me. I'm not a bigot or an extremist. I don't hate anybody, but I do want people to know Christ as Savior. You know, Shannon, just a few weeks ago, I did a deal at the Reagan Library with Dennis Prager, the Jewish talk show host. And for 90 minutes, we talked about the commonality between Judaism and Christianity. We worship the same God, revere the same scriptures, but we honestly talked about the differences. Dennis said he believes that you go to heaven by good works. I said Christianity says it's by faith. But Dennis Prager said, I'm not offended that Robert tries to win me to Christ. I see it as a sign of affection, that he really cares about me. And if I believed what Robert did, I understand why he would try to win me to faith in Christ. I think we can have a civil dialogue without launching into these vitriolic attacks like we've witnessed over the last 2 days.
Well, of course, religious differences are much of the unrest, or the root of the unrest there in the Middle East. Very quickly, do you think, which side do you weigh on? Does this move us closer to or further away from a lasting peace process there?
I think this moves us much closer to lasting peace. And I know from talking to President Trump, that's what he wants. You know, the other day, Benjamin Netanyahu said to a group of us something I'll never forget. He said, you can never build peace on a lie. You have to build peace on truth. And the truth is, Jerusalem is the capital of Israel. It has been for 3,000 years. And recognizing that is the beginning place, not the ending place. but the beginning place for true peace in the Middle East.
Well, having been there and talked to the top Palestinian negotiator, Dr. Eric Arakat, back in January, I know that there are deep wounds there and a lot of people who aren't ready to come back to the table. So we'll watch and see. Pastor, get a nap. Thanks for getting up super early for us. It's great to see you.